Principles of Persuasion, or 21 Ways to Convince Anyone of Anything. Why do some people manage to be incredibly persuasive? Is it an innate ability, or can it be developed? In this video, we will see 21 principles of persuasion shared by one of the famous businessmen, investors, and writers Jason Nazar. His thoughts were published on the Forbes website, and, of course, they have already helped many to succeed in the art of persuading other people. Let's take a look at them. You can choose which one suits you best. And some you might want to argue with. Fundamentals of Persuasion. Number 1. Persuasion is not manipulation. Manipulation is the forcible compulsion of a person to do something that is contrary to his desire. Conviction is an art, a person's search for doing what is primarily in his interests. And as an additional bonus, it will be beneficial for you. Belief. Number 2. We convince them. Before learning how to persuade people, it is worth remembering that you cannot convince a person to do something that is contrary to his principles and moral standards. Of course, at the right moment and under the right circumstances, anyone can be convinced, but it is not a fact that this will happen quickly. The first step of persuasion. Recognize those people who will be easier to convince and direct your attention and energy to them. These people will then help in persuading others. Election campaigns are a prime example of this. Well, those who try to convince everyone at once and just waste their time in vain. Number 3. Context and time. The basics of the power of persuasion are contexts, time. Context determines what is applicable under the circumstances and what is not. At the end of the last century, one very interesting psychological experiment was conducted with the participation of students of the Faculty of Psychology, which showed that absolutely anyone can be turned into a dictator under certain circumstances. During these studies, students played the role of prisoners and guards. They created a makeshift prison for them. And contrary to expectations, the volunteers quickly adapted to their roles. And as a result, those who played the prisoners were morally depressed, and the guards showed dictatorial manners. As a result, this experiment showed that people adapt to every situation they find themselves in. And it is the context that determines whether you can convince a person or not. And, of course, time also plays an important role. It determines what we want from life and from other people. As time goes by, our beliefs change as well. Number 4. To convince, you need to be interested. You can never convince a person who is not interested in what you are talking about. For the most part, we are interested in ourselves. This is one of the most important principles of persuasion. Talk to people about themselves or about things that interest them. It is necessary to speculate about what interests the other person. It's a thankless task and few succeed. To understand whether you are able to interest a person, focus on his emotional response. If it is, then you are on the right track. General rule. Belief. Number 5. Reciprocity. The desire to help others in order to survive. How mind? We have it at the genetic level. The author of the article says that by convincing one can use this desire for mutual exchange. However, if you ask my opinion on this matter, then there is just a very thin line between persuasion and manipulation. Therefore, I do not recommend using this method. Number 6. Persistence. It is people who are willing to persevere in achieving goals and who demonstrate their importance usually succeed in the art of persuasion. Historical figures managed to convince a huge mass of people in their ideas, for some reason, because they stubbornly followed their goals. For example, Abraham Lincoln, before he was elected President of the United States, he lost 8 times in the election race, but this did not stop him. He stubbornly walked towards his goal, convincing people to believe in him, and he succeeded. Number 7. Sincere compliments. The person will always be disposed to listen to you if you are kind and welcoming. But what could be better than a compliment to set such an atmosphere? But with the proviso that it will be a really sincere compliment. And what to hide, we all like praise, and we need the approval of others. And if we hear someone's a compliment, we already treat this person a little better. This is the simplest method of persuasion, and it does not cost anything, except, of course, sincere interest in a person. Number 8. Setting expectations. To be persuasive, one must be able to influence the expectations of others. For example, the manager of a company that promises a 20% increase in sales, but achieves 30, wins. And, of course, he will be more trusted than others who promised 40 and achieved only 30. To be persuasive, you need to understand the expectations of others and clearly set them, and then always exceed them. Number 9. Quickly conclusions. Never jump to conclusions about what you need other side. If you want to persuade a person to something, you do not need to guess what he wants or what he does not want. Always offer what you have to discuss. And you don't have to make decisions for people. Let them do it themselves. Number 10. Creating scarcity. Price and demand for everything is very relative. Often we want something just because other people want it too. What is more accessible to me? It's something, the more we want it. Unfortunately, this is the law of our consciousness. Therefore, if your goal is for people to want, then offer them. Make it something exclusive. Even if it's about yourself. Make people miss you. Number 11. A sense of relevance. If you want people to agree with you instantly, you need to make them feel immediately. This is our most important asset. For example, remember any promotional offer. The discount is valid today only. And it works. Number 12. The power of images. The power of an image often helps to convince a person more than any words. There are many challenges among us who are far more affected by what they see than by what they hear. There is a saying that it is better to see once than to hear 100 times. Number 13. The power of truth. Sometimes, to convince a person, the easiest way is to tell the truth, and especially if other moments do not want to tell it, when we have to face it, the harsh truth becomes the most significant in our life. Try to tell the truth. No judgment or ulterior motive. And the person will surely surprise you with his reaction. Number 14. The power of similarity. We like people who are like us. This manifests itself not only in our conscious decisions, but also in our unconscious behavior. Reflecting the behavior of others. Body language, speech rhythm and intonation. It helps a lot to establish contact with the interlocutor, so the person feels more comfortable and becomes more open to conversation. Personal skills. Number 15. Flexibility in behavior. Most often, the situation is controlled not by the most powerful, but by the most flexible. Children can be very persuasive, because they are always ready to change the pattern of behavior until they get what they want. They can bargain, beg to charm. And the more such a repertoire, the more convincing it can be. Number 16. Energy is the most convincing. People know how to motivate, inspire and infect others with their energy. For them, one eye contact may be enough to energize a person, ignite him and convince them of something. These people are drawn to you like a magnet. Number 17. Clarity in the expression of thoughts. Einstein said the matter is as simple as possible, but not simpler than that. In other words, if you cannot explain something to a child so that he understands what is at stake, then you need to simplify it and try to explain it again. The art of persuasion in simplicity. Number 18. Preparation. In order to convince someone of something, you must always have excellent information about the subject of the conversation, as well as know your interlocutor. The more carefully you prepare for a conversation, the more convincing you will be. For example, you will have a much better chance of getting a job with the company. If you have prepared for the interview, learn all about the history, products, and services of the company. And if you still know the person who will be interviewing you, his role in the company, his communication style, then the chances will rise even higher. Number 19. Calmness in conflicts. People are always less effective when they are in control of their emotions. Even if the situation is heating up, you will manage it if you can save it. Calmness in conflict situations. People always turn to those who know how to control their emotions, and trust in such people is much higher. Number 20. Controlled anger. Most people don't like conflict. And if your interlocutor feels that you are ready for a confrontation, then most likely he will retreat. But again, my personal comment on this point. Keep in mind that this is a very controversial way. Remember that forcibly forcing a person to do something that is contrary to his desires is simply unacceptable. Number 21. Confidence. There is nothing more attractive than confidence. A person radiates self-confidence, can always convince of his innocence. If you have faith in yourself, your strengths, in what you are doing, you can always convince other people of this. Share which of the following methods of persuasion did you like the most? Which of them are you already practicing? Well, maybe with some you do not agree. We also invite you to watch other videos on our channel about communication skills, psychology, attitude, and much more. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And see you soon.